Hello everyone, it's Stefano here from Black Belts Consulting, and this is the second episode of Shift Happens, a podcast where we explore the shift happening right now in the IT industry and also look at what's next, how things change and what can we do, what can companies do to adapt to this change and actually be prepared and be on the leading edge of this change. I'm joined here today by Sameli, Mäenpää, my co-founder in Black Belts. Hello, Sameli. And the topic today is data. Sameli has been for a long time chief data officer of one of the biggest banks and insurance companies here in Finland, so he knows a couple of things about data, I hope, because I don't. And
you're being modest.
Huh?
You're being modest.
No. I truly don't know much about data, but I learned a lot from Sameli in the meantime. And we are here today, same socks, but a completely different weather. It's after lunch and sun is shining here in Helsinki, in Hakaniemen Tori, in the Akaniemi Square. And so today the big question for this podcast that we are going to try to answer is, what if companies would treat data like they were treating their money? So what if companies would treat data like they were treating their money? So first open question to you is exactly that. What do you think would happen if company would do that?
Yeah, so to answer that question, I think we need to take a couple steps back. So first, I think we need to have a conversation about what makes data valuable. I mean, how can you even compare it to money? So I think data as it is doesn't have an intrinsic value. I mean, when you think of data, it needs to be in a context. The context makes it usable. And what is the context? So the context is basically any, like, let's say, customer, business process, core process. I mean, those things make it valuable, that it is in a relevant context. And if you have established that context, you can then start to think about which data is the most valuable, which data set is the most valuable, which is a bit less valuable, and which data is like, let's say, not valuable at all, or even negative value. I think data can even have a negative value.
Bullshift value.
Yeah, okay. Bullshift value, yes, indeed. Yeah.
Right, so then first thing that companies need to do is to understand their data.
Exactly.
So that they can attach some value to it. And of course, not all data is the same, as you just said. And some data can even have negative value attached. If you cannot store it, don't have to store it, it's noise.
Yeah, you might have, it might be that you don't even have a right to store it. And if you if there's a regulator, for example, in your industry, and the regulator sees that you don't have a right to store it, but you still store it, I mean, it might be a fine that you're looking at. So it definitely can have a negative value as well.
So yeah, first of all, it's to understand your data. If you're a company dealing with any kind of data, which should be, I would say, most companies having an IT system in their use would have some sort of data. And okay, so now that the company has understood what data does it have and attached some value to it, what is the next step in this journey to understanding your data and treating your data like it was your money?
Then I think it's the same. Like if you have money, you think about how to invest that. So basically, you think you have a similar process with the data, that you need to think about that which the data that is most valuable might not be obviously always the one where you can make most money out of. I mean, sometimes you don't know which data brings most value. Even though you think you know that, for example, customer data is a very valuable asset for most companies, but it might be that you have already been mining that data, and you might have already taken most of the value that is taken can be taken from that asset. So it might be that for the future that is not anymore the most valuable. So it might be it's another data set that can bring value when you analyze it, when you understand it better, and when you find a business context where it can provide more value.
Right, so understand your data, analyze your data, and connect it with a business context, which is useful.
When you invest, you need to understand that what are you investing to, and you need to have a business case basically. So there needs to be a kind of real world example of a business need that you are going to fix, and sometimes data can help to fix that. So I think it is sort of a normal case where you think about, for example, stocks. I mean, you don't always know which stocks is going to give you the best return. Mm-hmm. But you probably have an idea why that stock might perform better than another stock.
Right.
And if you can do that better than the market, you could say, then you're going to get richer, at least faster than the market average. And it's the same with data, that you don't exactly know always which data is going to make you rich. And that's why you really have to pay attention in the process of selecting your bets.
Okay, not all data is the same, but is it like with currencies then, that not all currencies are the same? I mean, I would like this to be a bit more concrete and tangible for somebody who knows money, at least.
Yeah. So I mean, you could say that the money is money, but when you really look into it, money is not money. I mean, it depends on what is backing.
Metaphysical.
Like. Yeah, it is metaphysical in a way that it's like what is backing it up. I mean, if you have a weaker kind of currency, it normally means that the country and the country's economy is a bit weaker. That is backing it up. And you can then have an example about cryptos. I mean, if Trump can create his own currency, I mean, basically means that his profile, his image, and himself can actually back it up, and people can believe into it. Mm-hmm. And it's not that different with money anywhere, that if you have a strong country like US, for example, backing up US dollar, it's pretty stable. It's the same with euro. But there are other currencies where there are more fluctuation depending on what is the situation with the country. Like, for example, Turkey. I mean, you can see how that kind of currency is moving around. So there are big shifts, and it's not that different with data. That at this point of time, a data set could be very valuable, but on another sort of point of time, it could be something else. It depends what happens in the world, and that's what I think is important when it comes to investments on data. I mean, you need to be prepared on different situations in the world and the market. And I think if you prepare with a good data platform, I mean, you control the utilization of the data, then you can be prepared to any basically situation, and then you can utilize any of the data sets.
It sounds a bit like a VC would place bets on different kind of ideas eventually. To me, at least, as a person who doesn't understand or doesn't know very much deeply this word, it sounds like you're saying that you have an amount of sources of data, and of course with different qualities, and then you should understand your data, analyze your data, put it in business context, and then the next step would be to place some bets according to what you think the market will need, your company will need, and then what kind of return on investment you are going to have. Is that what you're saying?
That is exactly what I'm saying. That basically, if we talk about the boring data terms, you need to first have kind of data management practices in place, data governance. That's all about sort of having ownership of data in place. It's all about structuring your data into different data domains and understanding the prioritization between the domains, that what sets are important. Then you basically need to have the data platform. From technical terms, you need to have the tools, the capabilities to utilize the data that you have taken control of. And then as a last thing, you can then obviously then start utilizing the data. You can do advanced analytics, you can do sort of normal software development which utilizes the data, and everything in between. And obviously you can utilize it with generative AI, you can utilize it with any of the tools that you have in your tool set. And that's the order. Obviously, when I'm saying that, I'm not saying that you need to do it for all your data in that order. It's not a waterfall. It's an iterative process where you basically can take a small set of data and you do data management practices, data governance practices. You then have at least some sort of a data platform to utilize it from the technology point of view, and then you can get to the use cases. So many times companies cannot do it for all data in that order, 1, 2, 3. But you can do it in a very iterative way.
So starting from, so you can do all that we just discussed, understanding, analyzing, business context, per vertical essentially. So and that's the way how you would go about it, right?
Yes.
You mentioned just briefly generative AI, and everybody's talking about generative AI, and maybe we will talk more about that in another episode. But do you think that the data that companies have can be useful even in this era of generative AI and LLMs and all of that?
Yeah, I think that's the base basically. I mean, for LLMs and GenAI to be useful for you, you basically need to put your data there as well. So it has been taught sort of with a large set of data from the world, you could say from the internet and the world. When you add your context, your company's context there, then it becomes aware also about your problems, about your opportunities. And I think that's the combination that you would be looking for as a company, that you utilize the general understanding and knowledge of the LLMs around the world in your context. But you need to put your data, your context into the LLM, and then it starts to be more valuable to you. I think in general sense it can be valuable even without your context, but not the same way.
Right. And so what about other traditional AI, like machine learning or deep learning?
Yeah, I think
what's the role of these technologies into now
Exactly.
or the current fabric of a company and their data?
I think GenAI is just one tool in a toolbox. I mean, it's good in creating new things. I mean, new things out of kind of material that is old things, but still it creates new things. When it comes to machine learning, it's quite different because it kind of looks back. It's quite different when it comes to focus, that it looks back and it analyzes the data from the past pretty much to maybe forecast what could happen in the future. So I think there are different tools, and often these things are kind of mixed up so that they are compared directly one against another, because they shouldn't be compared one against another. It's like you don't compare drill and a hammer. Why would you do that? Because they are different tools for different purposes, and you should rather think them as complementing tools, because sometimes you need the drill, sometimes you need the hammer, and both are useful, but it's not like the same thing. I mean, you can use obviously a drill as a hammer, but it might not be the best for that. So I really think that it's just those are just one examples of tools, and there are many other tools in the box, like traditional software development, which has been there for a very, very long time. RPA is a good tool in that box, and every time you analyze a use case, you need to think about the toolbox, that what tool is like the best. And sometimes it's AI, but it's not always. And I kind of dislike very much the fact that the AI would be an answer for all use cases.
Very true. So going back to the topic of the conversation, what would happen if companies would treat data like they treat their money? We now have looked at these 4 phases of understanding, analyzing, putting it in context, and then extracting value. What about the return on investment? I mean, usually one would want to use money in a way that you invest them somewhere and then something a bit bigger than that comes back, whether it's more money or other kind of results. So how that applies in the world of data, how that parallel works?
I think that's actually one thing where wealth management for money and wealth management for data asset or data capital is actually differentiating a bit. Because when you invest into data, you basically improve the quality, you improve the structure, you improve the usability. Basically, the more you invest, the less your risk is. It's not exactly the same when you invest with money. Basically, the higher the reward, the higher the risk. That's the basic rule in wealth management.
Yeah.
But with data, basically, the value of the data improves all the time, and that also improves your reward. So it decreases the risk and improves the reward. And I think that's perfect, and that's like at least if you're from wealth management, that would sound like a utopia, almost like a dream come true. That you can at the same time decrease risk and improve profits, and that's amazing. And that's why I think data is actually something where you should which you should use and think as an asset that you can kind of manage.
Okay, but the sort of parallel with money stops there essentially.
Yeah. Well, I think that kind of differentiates the asset. I think it's a quality of that asset. It doesn't sort of take anything away from the fact that you need to manage that asset still the same way. You need to treat it with respect. I mean, I think data is the only asset where you can basically, I mean, you treat it so badly that you can find it from anywhere. I mean, you can just go to a server and you find data that no one knew about, everyone has forgot about. You can go to Teams or SharePoint or any of these tools, and there are a lot of data that no one knows about. But I can pretty much guarantee that they know where their money are. I mean, there are very few people who have so much money that they basically have forgotten most of it.
And none of them is living here, by the way, is with us in this room.
Yeah.
Otherwise it would be a different discussion.
Yes.
But now that you were talking, I was thinking, can you actually overinvest in data?
Yes.
Is there a risk of, I mean, is that the risk actually?
Yeah, I honestly think that you can. I mean, there are different frameworks, for example, data management maturity. I mean, when you start to look at those frameworks, they are most of the time from 1 to 5. And 1 is like, you have the basic concept and you have started to understand that there is some value in data and you have some structure. The higher you go, let's say that the level 3 normally means that you have established practices almost everything in data governance, and you kind of have already invested most times for years if you're a larger company. Then if you look at what is number 5, what is the level 5? I mean, it's like perfect. Everything is perfect. And I think what I've seen in big companies and when I've sparred with other CDOs in different companies, I mean, going to level 5, it doesn't matter which framework of maturity, would be unnecessary. Mm-hmm. I mean, that level is so kind of, it would require so big investments that it wouldn't you couldn't justify it with the investments. I mean, the return would just not be
so there's this kind of law of diminishing returns in the end.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So I think most of the time, maturity level 3.5, depending on the framework, is probably where the best are aiming at. And then above that, 4.5, 5 are just way too investment heavy to target.
Right. So in a nutshell, if we want to just sum it up in the end, so we have seen that if companies would treat data like they would treat their money, they would need to understand, they would need to analyze, they would need to put things in context, and then extract value by starting by applying it with a specific vertical. With the goal of reaching good enough or very good, data management quality. But then overinvesting further that point starts to be a bit of a question mark. And extracting value from there, it's maybe not easy. And the other thing I think which was very interesting that you said is that the parallel with money stops at the sort of wealth management phase, where paradoxically investing in data can at the same time increase your rewards and decrease your risk, which is of course not true in wealth management. They go hand in hand.
Oh, most of the time it's not true. You are probably cheating if it goes like that. But yes.
Or you're Bernie Madoff or somebody.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes. Fair enough. So I hope this was an insightful discussion, and then you managed to get something out of it. Remember to engage with us and give us feedback in LinkedIn, where we are, Stefano Mosconi and Sameli Mäenpää, or Black Belt Consulting page on LinkedIn. Engage with us, give us feedback. You can react also to this podcast or videocast, depending where you are watching or listening. So we very much hope that you got something out of it, and next time you're going to come back for the next episode. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Bye.